in this lesson, we'll take a look at blending different paint layers together. So just like we blended the different sculpt layers, we can do the same thing with our textures or our paint layers. So let's say we want to add a little bit of detail here on a new layer. Let's go ahead and just click this button to add a new paint layer. And this one we'll call red layer. We'll make it the same size, and we'll set the channel to be diffuse as well. So that's going to create a new layer on top of our base color. So think of these as kind of Photoshop layers, or ones on top of the other. And so now we can start to add new detail on this layer. So we need to make sure it's selected. We'll go to Paintbrush, and then I'm going to turn off the stamp, and I'm going to get kind of a red color. So kind of a darker red. And I want to start in areas like around the eyes and the mouth, and I want to start to add in this kind of red color here. Okay. Now this is not going to look like this because we're going to go in and actually change the opacity, and we can also come in and change the blend modes. So we can set this to something like screen, and it'll give us a different effect. And so I can come in with a real light touch and maybe even take the strength down a little bit and start to add in some of this color in some of these areas, like around the face. Okay, areas maybe a little bit around the kind of the nose area, coming around, kind of going down here. The lips as well can kind of come in and start to add a little bit of detail there. Change the color up a little bit. And this is on a completely separate layer, so at any time if we wanted to turn this off, we could do that. Okay. Let me come in and maybe right around the eyes here, just bring that in a little bit more. Maybe around along the chin, I can sort of bring that color in a little bit there as well. Kind of coming down under the mouth just real lightly. And again, we're painting on this as it is being blended using that screen mode. So I'll kind of come bring this up a little bit. You can also do the same thing sort of under the arms and down to kind of the hand area. Kind of do something similar to that. Let's do the same thing kind of up here, kind of along these little tubes here. I'll hit this other side as well. So you can start to blend these together. And you can always go back in and kind of turn things off. Change the opacity, change the blend mode if you need to do that. Okay, so we can come in here now and we can modify the opacity. We can experiment with different blend modes. Come in like that. We can also start to, as we see how the textures are interacting, we can start to adjust textures as a whole. So let's say the base color, we want to adjust it. We can go up here, this little arrow, go to adjust color, and then you can actually change the hue, saturation, and value here. Saturation of it out a little bit. Okay, and then you can see that is going to affect how this works, and so you can go back in and change things as you want. Maybe overlay. But I think in this case for us, I think screen's going to work just fine. Okay, so you can start to add color that way, kind of blending colors on using a different layer. Let's also add a little bit more detail. So let's say I want to add some more interesting skin detail. Let's go ahead and add a new layer, and we'll call this blue layer. And again, it's with the diffuse, so we're just now blending multiple layers together. Let's get our paintbrush. Let's maybe get this leaf stamp, and let's get a blue color. So get something kind of bright. And then we'll get a fairly large brush. And then let's come in and just kind of tap to add that detail. And you can see it gives you sort of a veiny kind of a look as you come across here. So we can start to add that in to the mix. If you just kind of tap hard, you can see it really comes out. Come across here. I don't want to just cover it all in blue. I just want that detail to kind of come through a little bit after we blend it together. And this is just over kind of the overall body. If you wanted to get kind of a smaller brush stroke, then you could get into some of those tighter areas. So let me kind of just cover this really quickly. Okay, so let's say we've got this all added in here now. Okay, so then we can come back in and start to blend this back in. Okay, so using the visibility, we can kind of blend that back into the result. So here's without and here's with. And then again, you can also use multiply, and you can see that gives you that kind of dark, veiny kind of a look. Just a little bit more interest if that's the way you want to go. There's also, you also have the ability in here to come in and erase paint out. So for instance, if there's these little areas up here maybe we don't want, I've got paint erase selected, and then I can just come in with the pressure sensitivity and just erase a little bit of that out to get the exact look that I want. And again, all those three are being blended together just like our sculpt layers were. Okay, so experiment a little bit, make maybe 3 to 4 layers and add different kinds of detail into those layers, and then see what you can do with the visibility and the blend modes in layering those together with each other. So once we've got something set up with a few layers, let's go ahead in the next lesson and take a look at how we could use projection to project through a photograph to add that sort of detail into our texture. So let's go ahead and do that next.